Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about Moola Nakshatra and all the characteristics of it. So to begin, Moola Nakshatra is in the Sagittarius sign, or Danhu. It goes from 0 to 13 degrees and 20 minutes. It's the 19th Nakshatra. It's ruled by Ketu. The deity it's ruled by is Niriti or Dhumavati. A lot of people I've seen like to associate Alakshmi with this nakshatra, but Alakshmi and Niriti had their own places in the Vedas. So they're completely different goddesses, so they shouldn't be, they should have their own places. And so for this, it specifically is Niriti or Dhumavati. The symbol is roots or a lion's tail. Usually the roots are tied. The gender of this nakshatra is genderless. The element is air. The animal is a dog. It is known as the butcher class. And its guna is tamasic. Moola has an approach to life to want to get to the core of things. They're quite relentless people when it comes to getting to the core of things and solutions to problems. Moola people tend to have a prominent nose, ears, and a thick lower lip. Moolas, male and female, also are said to be very good looking and the most good looking out of the whole family. However, it's said that Moola males are generally better looking, even though the females are good looking too, but the males are usually very, very handsome. And Moola does really well and compatible with Moola nakshatras. They do really well with Kritika nakshatra. They do really well with Magha nakshatra. They do very, very well with Chitra nakshatra. They do well with Swati nakshatra. Any of the Rahu or Ketu ruled planets, Moola will do really well with. And these that I just named, it's over a 60% compatibility. Moolas do extremely well with Moola nakshatras, as I already said. They do really good with Purvashada nakshatra. They do pretty well with Uttar Bhadapada nakshatra. And they do good with Ravati nakshatra, Swati nakshatra. A lot of times the Moola nakshatra is often misunderstood. I've seen that quite a bit. A lot of people just lean towards Moola being dreadful and that's it. And then some people lean towards, they don't even speak about the dreadfulness. So it's kind of, it's a nakshatra that is very, it's a very powerful nakshatra. So both of these ideas have to be into this nakshatra, the dreadful and the good qualities. So we're going to get into that a little bit. Moola nakshatras, they tend to like to keep things that are personal. They are very good at these people are very good at giving advice. However, sometimes they don't take their own advice. And that could, be misconstrued, and people would likely find out, like if somebody's saying, oh, you shouldn't drink alcohol or you shouldn't eat meat, and then they go do that, and somebody finds out that they do that, they might not be looked at as authentic. But sometimes mullahs have difficulty of basically, quote unquote, practicing what they preach. But they always do really have good advice. And a lot of mullahs do also follow their own advice too. Moola is a really firmly fixed nakshatra, sort of like roots in the ground. Mullahs, oftentimes, especially with female natives, they tend to be very stubborn in their ways. And this can be a problem, not so much in the workplace, because it's really good to be ambitious, and mullahs are very ambitious, but in relationships, being too stubborn can sometimes cause problems, because it has to be a two-way street. It can't just be my way or no way. So you have to be willing to compromise, and sometimes because mullahs are very stubborn, it makes them immovable. And sometimes, even because Ketu is the ruling planet, these people can be in a daze to what they're doing. Like, they don't realize that they're like this. But other people that look at them, they see it clearly. But the mullah himself or herself has a lot of trouble seeing their own behavior and how it can be detrimental. Mullahs also like to be alone. And this is more seen later in life. In the earlier stages till about age 30, they were with their friends or co-workers or whatever, and it was no big issue. But after the age 30, mullahs tend to like to do things alone. And it's not that people don't like to be with them. It's just they prefer to be doing more things that are considered introverted, I guess. Mullahs are also, as I already said, they like to get to the root of things. They like to understand. They're adventurous. And they're very, very giving to others. They like to be in situations where there's calm and peace. And this is a very powerful nakshatra. And one of the reasons why it's so powerful is because the first pad of this nakshatra falls in a Gandanta. The Gandanta goes, it's when the element of fire is going in, or the element of water is going into fire. So it goes, the Gandanta goes from 0 degrees to 3 degrees in 20 minutes in Moola. And this first pod of Moola can be considered very, very inauspicious. But if the girl is born in the daytime and the boy is born at nighttime, then these inauspicious effects aren't fully nullified, but they do go down quite significantly. And Sage Parashara did say that in order to nullify these negative Gandanta effects, one should go as far, I mean, with this particular Gandanta, one should go as far as not seeing the child until after 7 years or 8 years. The father shouldn't see the child for that long if the child's born on this, if they're born in the first pod of Moola within the 3 degrees and 20 minutes. You know, I'm not sure if that's still practiced today, but I mean, it is something that's ancient, and definitely if we're not going to go to that extreme, then definitely Shanti pujas should be done, praying to the deity of the Lagna. You know, any benefic planet that's sitting in the first house, that would be beneficial as well, because like I said, this nakshatra is very powerful. A lot of Moola natives, you know, I've been told and I've witnessed that you can be doing something in a relationship, let's say, and you don't even notice how powerful your being in Moola Nakshatra is. But it can be a heavy burden on that other person because of so much power being in this nakshatra. So everything that you do, whether it's you're stubborn or you're possessive, which Moola nakshatras tend to be very possessive as well of their loved ones and partners, not of material things, but their loved ones and partners, they're very, very possessive. So you take a person that's not born in Moola Nakshatra, let's say, let's take someone born in a Gemini sign or something. Maybe, you know, like they're stubborn, and then you have a Moola person that's stubborn. Well, it's like the Gemini stubbornness is like on a scale, or no, on a thermometer. It goes to about, 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, a Moola stubbornness, it feels to the other person like it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a really heavy, because of the powerfulness in this nakshatra, it feels heavy. Even loving someone with this nakshatra, like when a Moola loves somebody, their love feels like you're carrying 2 heavy suitcases rather than just, the love of another nakshatra. It feels like you're just, you're not carrying anything. So it's not necessarily that the Moola means to do this, but because their nakshatra is so powerful, it's sometimes very burdensome to the other person. And so Moolas need to be very careful of how they act with other people, because even their love or their stubbornness, a negative and a positive emotion, both of them can weigh out really heavily on the other person. So they need to make sure that they're matched up with people that are really good matches for them, um, and be as non-imposive as possible. I think that would be the best for these Moola Nakshatras. Another thing about some basic differences between Moola men and women is that Moola men, they seem to be, they're a little bit different from the female counterpart. The Moola man, he's more of easygoing, kind of nonchalant, very peaceful and ambitious. Whereas the Moola female, she's also ambitious and peace-loving, but she is more stubborn in her ways, like even little things. She's adamant about those, and unmovable, which can be not good in relationships with other people, because you have to be willing to compromise. And a Moola female it's so hard to get her to compromise. And even if she does, again, that just the weight of the relationship itself it's just overwhelming. That's why it's really important for I think the reason why they say that K2 ruled nakshatras, they only do well with other K2 ruled nakshatras and Rahu nakshatras. But there are some more compatibility that Moola can work with. Of course, Rahu K2 signs, the Ardra Nakshatra, Swati, Shatabisha, Ashwini, Magha, all of these will get along really well with Moola. Some of the neutral relationships where it's not bad, it's not good, that can be nakshatras ruled by Mars or Mangala, Mrigashira, Chitra, Danishta, nakshatras ruled by Brihaspati, Pranavasu, Vishaka, Purva Bhadrada. Now some that are not, it's a little bit uneasy, not terrible but uneasy, are nakshatras ruled by Shukra. So Bharini, Purva Falguni, Purva Ashada. Also nakshatras that are a little bit uneasy are Shani nakshatras, so Pushya, Anuradha, Uttarabhadrada. I know I'm not saying that right. I always have trouble saying those ones. And so the most challenging relationships with Moola are Chandra ruled nakshatras. So Rohini, surprisingly, Rohini is an uneasy with Moola. Hasta, Shravana, Surya nakshatras also are challenging with Moola. Kritika, Uttar Falguni, Uttar Ashada, and Buddha nakshatras are also very challenging, and will probably most likely cause issues. Those heavy burdens that I were talking about will probably be if you try to have a friendship, a co-workership, or a marriage with these people. It might feel heavy. Even if you want to have the relationship and you're doing the best you can, it'll feel heavy for them because that power is so heavy. So the Buddha is Ashlesha, Jeshta, and Revati. You know, something about Moola is that a lot of times, and this is especially with female Moolas, the male counterparts seem to be like more ambitious, and they do really well in this nakshatra. You know, they still like to get to the root of things. They're stubborn, but they get by in life. It's not the female is has a little bit more difficulty handling this power of emotions, and the thing with and even some male Moola nakshatras, I'm sure, have this feeling too, but there's always this sense of wanting to, and maybe not even wanting to, but kind of like annihilation and destruction. And even if, you know, like there's this wanting to get to the root of things, and sometimes, you know, when you pull out, you want to transplant a plant, and when you pull those roots out, if you're careful, if you do it carefully, you can pull up those roots and see all of the roots at the bottom. You know, whereas if you just yank it out of the ground, the roots will still be in there, and all the other stuff at the top will just come off. So if a Moola can learn how to properly pull up and get to the root of things, then they'll have something very beautiful that they can take and share, you know, and plant their seeds of wisdom in other places. They just have to be careful as to how they pull and get to those roots. Because one trait of a Moola Nakshatra is they definitely like to get to the bottom of things. They're very good at tantric practices, mantras, religious practices. You know, I've even heard that some people that have had Moola and they had a conjunct planet with the moon, they had some ESP, or they had, I don't know if it was ESP or they saw spirits, or but yeah, it was like they had said that they had had a conversation with somebody who had like died like a few days later or something like that. It was really weird. But so a lot of you know, supernatural stuff can go along with K2. And let's see, what else can I say about Moola? You know, the thing, there's a quote in the movie called Eve's Bayou, and Moselle says that sometimes, I mean, she had gotten to a point in her life where she had lost 4 of her husbands, and she said, like, because she got so used to losing things, she felt like she had to look for more things to lose. And this is kind of like the Moola Nakshatra, whereas, like, you may not, and 99% of the time, the Moola doesn't know, like, that this is, unless, you know, she or he is really advanced. But most of the time, the Moola doesn't even understand her power or his power. And so when these relationships, especially with females, get destroyed, the Moola is just kind of like, oh, just oblivious and headless to the reasons why this relationship went down. But a lot of times, if the Moola is not careful with that power, as we discussed earlier, she can end up tearing her own house down with her own hands. Which that quote in that movie reminded me of. But it was a more advanced Moola that had grasped her power. And she, she knew that, her power was annihilating these relationships because it was so heavy for that other person. So I think that as long as you learn how to, get in the right relationships with the right people, your power won't feel so heavy on that other person, especially with people who have the same power as you. It's not going to feel heavy to them. And, learning how to not, channel your energy somewhere. Moola people, they sometimes they feel, and they don't even know that they have this, and probably won't even admit it after watching this video, but hopefully it reaches some people. But a lot of Moolas, especially females, they tend to want to destroy something. And it may not be like a bad destruction. It may be like when you take the roots out of the ground to plant it somewhere else. Or, you want to, pluck out the bad things that are ruining like the good things, getting to the root of it. So the thing that you have to be able to do is you have to just be able to carefully get to those roots so that they don't damage the whole thing. That is all that I have today on Moola Nakshatra, and I hope you guys enjoyed learning about Moola as much as I enjoyed telling it. Have a great day.